Good, everybody. Welcome back to JurisQ Legal Network podcast. And I'm here with an attorney, Sinayskaya Yuniver. Stephen, welcome back to our program.
Hi, Michael. Hi, Michael. It's good to be back. Thank you for having us.
Pleasure to have you. Now, you're a partner in Sinayskaya Yuniver, and you do different types of law. But today we're going to talk about commercial real estate because you really have a lot of authority and experience in it, and people have, of course, many questions on it. I'm sure you get a lot of questions as an attorney, and today I want to focus on some things, some issues, and I want to ask you a very commonly asked question. You hear it all the time. When people buy a property for an investment, right? Not your house or your apartment. You're buying a commercial building, a piece of land you want to develop. People have questions for an attorney. How should you buy this property? Under what type of umbrella? Under your own name, under an LLC, under a partnership if you have few partners, under a corporation. So let's talk about, in your experience, for real estate purchases, what is the best form? What are the cons and the pros of the other forms?
So it's a very interesting question. I would say, in my experience, about 95% of all real estate purchases or any kind of business purchase are made in LLC form. I think it's just because people heard of it or something like that. But you have to really be specifically figuring out what is best for you in that situation.
Okay.
So if majority of the time it is LLC form because of tax information. And that's why it's very, very important to work with an attorney that either works with accountants or is able to work with your accountant.
Right.
It's very, very vital to have the kind of protection that you need in both sides.
Sure.
And if you're going to request foreign investment, a lot of times there's the other form of the C Corp, opening it up in Delaware, which is something that's very nuanced, very rare to see that.
Yeah, why is Delaware such a famous state where people immediately think, oh, I want to open a Delaware corporation? What's so special about Delaware?
It's changed a little bit in the last couple of years. A lot of people are now doing Wyoming, Nevada, South Dakota, but Delaware historically has been the most protective state of for corporations. So people would open up Delaware corporations because tax-wise and liability-wise, that shields a lot of the investors and owners from liability to their other and personal assets.
Let me ask you a question. If you open a company in Delaware, don't you also have to open another company or have that company registered in New York to do business in New York? Is that a requirement?
It's something called domesticating a foreign entity. Foreign, we use in legal term, is not international, what we use as a regular term, but rather out of state.
Okay.
So it's called domesticating a foreign entity, and you would have to domesticate it registered in New York to be able to do business in New York. But again, it's very important to understand the nuances of this, and potentially opening it up in New Jersey in order to be able to have contracts in New York. It's all done in conjunction to protect you from increasing tax liability or increased liability for your other assets and properties.
And what happens if you do not register your business in New York? If you own it only under a foreign company?
Potentially, the foreign company could get a fine if they need to do anything like file taxes, or you won't be able to sue in New York in case you needed to file a lawsuit.
Okay.
Or defend yourself potentially. So it's a whole legal ramification.
Got it. Stephen, what are some of the fees involved? What is more expensive form of ownership? Is it LLCs or corporation, or it's pretty much the same?
Well, no. So New York has a requirement that an LLC has to be published in a newspaper.
Okay.
For a number of 10 weeks, I believe it was the law now. So you have to pay. Usually it's a local newspaper like the Bay Ridge Sun if it's a Brooklyn LLC, and it has to be in the county where it's open. So
that's not so bad, huh?
By that regard, that's the most expensive part of opening an LLC in New York, because these newspapers charge anywhere from 900 to 1800, depending on where you publish it.
And Stephen, what if you are the only person in that company? You don't have any partners, you don't have investors, you are buying it for yourself. Can you buy it under your own name, or should you still form some kind of entity, an LLC or a corporation?
Well, we'll get into the liability section a little
Yeah.
later, but for this, if it's going to be a real property in New York, you should be purchasing it in an LLC. The tax consequences of that will, if you're a single member entity, is always the same as if you opened up a corporation. But for liability wise, you should definitely open up an LLC because there's certain additional shielded protections and tax regulations when you own property that the LLC form gives you.
Yeah. Okay. This is not a simple issue. It looks like if you want to buy property, especially with partners, because if you have partners, you may want to have agreements in place between you and your partners, because very quickly, right, something can spiral out of control, and we should definitely talk about that issue also in our next sessions. But anytime you buy property, either yourself or with partners, or as they're called, members in an LLC, right, Stephen? You should definitely consult an attorney and an accountant to figure out the legal aspects and the accounting/tax aspects and benefits of each one. So that's
right.
where
It's extremely important for an attorney to work with an accountant at all times in a commercial practice.
Yeah.
The client has to be protected from all angles.
100%. Okay, Stephen, thank you so much. And of course, here we're giving only very general information. We're educating people to give them a taste of what to look out for, what to expect, what kind of issues to envision when you are buying or selling a property, especially commercial property, which is very complex. And it is always a good idea to talk to an attorney, somebody like Stephen Yuniver, who does commercial law, commercial real estate day in, day out, to get specific answers to your questions. And the number of Stephen and Sinayskaya Yuniver firm is on the bottom of the screen. Stephen, thank you. We'll see you very soon.